This is James Rores with Floriss Group. We specialize in delivering a 100% predictable growth curve to modern sales forces.
I just love just in it. Like you just start and quick and just boom, this is what we do. Love that. Hi James, how you doing?
Pleasure. It's great to be here. Great to see you again.
All right, so for everyone that's watching, James is married to one of my high school buds of all buds, my ski buddy, my beach buddy when she's here in the state, she's here in Massachusetts. I mean, she's my tried and true. And James married my beautiful Beth, and they have two beautiful children that I adore. And literally, they follow me, I follow them on social media because now they're teenagers. So we have our own little relationship outside of mom and dad. So I love this. This is really nice to actually have you here.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Beth upgraded my life tenfold. So it's been a trip for the last nearly 29 years.
29, isn't that crazy? That's craziness. All right, so we're gonna get to Beth and we're gonna get to everything, but where are you right now? Let's share your location.
Yeah, we're in Columbus, Ohio. I was born and raised in Buffalo. Beth and I went back to Buffalo from New England, and then 7 years later back to New England, and had our kids, started our lives, and life brought us to Columbus, which has been fantastic. We've been here since 2006.
And I remember when you guys first moved there, I came to visit when the girls were little, and it was so much fun. And I'm like, oh my God, why don't I come here that often? And of course, now the girls are in end of high school years, college years, and I have yet to come back to visit because I kind of suck.
Well, we like visiting you, so we like coming out to the Cape and hanging out there. So
this is true. Okay, so I mean, we can reminisce forever. This, we want to hear about James. So before the company, let's just rewind the clock in regards of you mentioned you were from Buffalo, so let's just rewind the clock and tell people, who are you? Where did you come from? Because at the end of the day, no business, no service, no product comes out of the air. It comes from an individual and their background. So to get to know what the company is, let's get to know who you are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, the short story.
Oh, no short story. No short stories. We can't do short.
Well, I have no idea how interesting I'm going to be. So I'll follow your lead. It's wild because my heritage is the heritage we were raised in is Greek. So my dad's side of the family, Greek family, greasy spoon restaurants, the diner type place. And I was born into the fourth generation of this family business, right? This family tradition of running restaurants. And by the time I got out of grad school, around the time that we met, I knew that I just did not want to do that. So I left grad school. I like to tell people that I left grad school looking back with the arrogance of my MBA, the arrogance of my youth, and the arrogance of having been raised an entrepreneur. And I say arrogance because I went to school at Northeastern and was almost fired from all three of my co-ops, right? So, and I mean that literally. I was just insufferable and just had my own idea about the way the world worked. I was on my own track. And not only that, but I didn't have any patience for any alternative views. And so I was very early someone who was tough to work with. And I would never have known that really if I hadn't left the cocoon that I was raised in that big fat Greek wedding, a Greek restaurant scene and that culture that I had been raised in Buffalo.
All right, so it's so funny that you say that. All right, so I never knew this. This is why I love having conversations with people I know that I've spent time with, that I've been in your home. I go, we spend quality time with, and these are little nuggets. I'm like, why did I not know this? And I do ask a lot of questions, so I'm really kind of shocked. So rewind the clock in regards of you're working at a family restaurant, it's fourth generation. I'm sure your parents must have known that you were annoying, and because there's no way.
No.
Sudden you went to grad school and you walked into this world. How is it that someone throughout your high school, college years didn't pinpoint, or was it something when you got into these co-ops that you were like, I don't know, because usually there's little breadcrumbs of who you are.
Yeah, I was, and and everybody should know that, you know, a lot has happened since then. So I have an insight into who I was that's not common, right? But I think what I would say to you is, and I haven't answered this question before, so or I haven't heard it asked this way before. What I would tell you is that my belief is that because I was part of that community, that culture, I had no perspective other than that community and that culture. And so, no, I wasn't unusual to my parents or my friends or my cousins or my extended friends and family. We were all Greek. We were all entrepreneurs. Everybody who wasn't Greek, you know, was somewhat lower status, right? Because that's the you know, the nationalistic, ethnocentric type of perspective that the community, you know, was like in Buffalo. And so it didn't feel different. The reason I left and went to Boston for school was because I didn't have a big enough, the environment that I was in didn't offer me a big enough vision for what I could do in my life. And I felt like I had to go elsewhere to embrace that vision. And I really had no idea what I was walking into. And then when I got to Boston and sat in my first orientation, I recognized, I showed up as who I was, and very quickly, nobody was laughing at my jokes. Nobody was speaking my language. I didn't have a diverse mindset. I was very parochial. Good thing I adapted, because I had to adapt almost instantly upon landing.
And it's, you know, and the funny part about that is where you're like, the diversity of, I mean, you're in a Greek family. People are seeing like, I mean, big fat Greek wedding, etc. And it's not, people forget when we use the word diversity, people just automatically think black, white, and they're not thinking about different cultures. And so when you're in that bubble and you're only, and like you said, you only know a certain language, you only know certain foods, you know, certain cultures and the way that everyone is, and you're walking into this other realm, you're like, this is really, really odd. And in people's minds, they're like, I go, but wait, you're white. You should understand. Like, no, still different. Where, same thing for me, Haitian bubble, Haitian protected in language, food, everything. And then when we walk outside the doors of the UN of Haiti, we're like a little different. All those characteristics. But now you're going to Northeastern. Northeastern is extremely diverse school in a very urban area. I mean, what a big jump that is for you from Buffalo to, I mean, inside the core of Boston. And you take a mile, a mile in any direction at Northeastern. You're in the city. I mean, like you are in some harsh areas of Boston. So how was that for you with you being you? I mean, it's not even just the classroom, but now you're walking outside into the neighborhoods. How was that for you in regards of adapting in that way?
Yeah. And you know, and I had a huge ego, right? So I was at the same time very frail and insecure, which produced an amazingly gigantic ego and alpha kind of perspective. So I could recognize the dissonance, and because I was unwilling to kind of be vulnerable at the time, I had to fight through that dissonance and find my own way to be dominant in that environment. And so, and the thing that I would say also is that Boston pulled from so many different countries around the world. So the diversity, it was global. And so this, you know, everything that I had learned just didn't apply. And so I had to be incredibly adaptive. And looking back, I realized I could have gained so much more from that experience if I had been more vulnerable, more open, less self-conscious, less judgmental. But it became what it should have been, which was a formative learning experience for me. You know, in many ways, all the ways that you described from a cultural perspective, but it also kind of delivered on what I was looking for, right? A bigger vision for what I could become. I wasn't aware of the pain, right, and the discomfort it would cause, but I was where I wanted to be. I was where I was meant to be. I was in a place where I could break out of all those constraints that had been built around me vis-a-vis the comfort of the culture and the homogeneousness of the culture that I was raised in.
When you got fired not once, not twice, but 3 times from a co-op, which is pretty impressive. I go, come on, round of applause there. What are the lessons that you got out of that? I mean, honestly, it's pretty epic. But what are the lessons that you got from those 3 situations that brought you to that first job that you were successful in? So like you are done with it, I mean, you graduate and then you've had these situations happen. I know you've learned, I mean, clearly you've learned from it, but that first job that you got and finally you're like nailing it. What were those moments for us?
Well, let me first say that the reason that those 3 levels of arrogance did not allow me to actually go get a job. I left grad school with a business plan. I tried getting it funded. I couldn't get it funded. And so I did what any normal human being would do. I started a consulting company and began working for myself. And I began.
Wait. Why didn't it get funded?
Well, it was a massive kind of concept for a chain of restaurants. And we needed to be able to lease space. And one of the things that I never even considered was what kind of assets would be required to lease the space that we needed to lease in order to make the concept work. And I just did not have the years of cash in the bank to guarantee a multi-year lease. And I didn't want to ask anybody else for it. So just walked away.
There you go. All right. So no, because I'm going to come back to this. Because you said something, but I don't want to touch upon it yet. So
okay.
Start a consulting firm.
Yeah. So I just hung up a shingle. I found a mentor who was running his own firm. We had complementary skills, and we began working together and making our way. And I began personally working with generational businesses, smaller businesses, who had sons and daughters who were going to be the de facto next generation of the business. And I was helping them think about how to mend their relationships in the context of the business, as well as drive growth. And so I was leveraging my MBA and leveraging my experience as the son of 2 highly entrepreneurial parents among a family of entrepreneurs. I could bring a lot of my own background. And because I was a very introspective person, I spent a lot of time deciphering and understanding who I was and why I was. And that gave me a market. So I kind of sidestepped this idea of working for someone until I was many years in. And I finally decided that my future was going to be in technology. And so I pursued technology clients, became an interim VP of sales for a technology company. And then that just launched my career into the venture world.
I love how you you answered the question for me, because I was going to say, what gives you the right to be a consultant? So you're not a good people person. Well, you are. I mean, you worked in restaurants. You had to deal with people all the time. So you had it in you, but then that the arrogance got in your way of succeeding in a consulting, not consulting, but in a company form, having someone else telling you what to do, which is funny because Greek families are very strong. They told you what to do. So there's a balance of the pros and the cons coming together. And then right in the middle where the scale is being held is where you came in and you found that I'm a consultant. I can play both roles and I can succeed in that way.
Right.
So is it the mentor that came and got you to that point? Or did you just get to the point where like, I need to get out of my own way? Like how did that moment of here's the scale, I can balance it back and forth. Here's the handle. I want to be the handle because I can play both sides. How did you get to that point where you figured out this is where I can really serve someone?
Yeah. I would have to say that didn't, my real self-awareness didn't come until, many years later. So there's a big transformation that occurred for me about 15 years into my career. What I was playing off at this point, I'm raising 2 daughters, as you know, and, my daughters are very sensitive to society's view of men and women and what they can and can't do. And we talk about this all the time. And I'm pro girl, right? Because my mom was an entrepreneur. My wife's an entrepreneur. She's helping me in the business. We're doing all these things. And I'm raising my daughters to be leaders, right? And so we're always kind of examining this and asking these questions. And one thing that we talk about a lot is how traditionally, women have been paid less than men, right? In general. And why is that? And one of the things that my daughters came up with was research that looked at how women oftentimes underestimate what they're capable of and guys overestimate, right? And so I was like that classic dude. I was dumb. I was ignorant. I didn't know what I couldn't do. I just knew what vision I had for myself, and I pushed myself to live up to that vision. So it propelled me forward into things that I normally maybe wouldn't have tried, or most people wouldn't have tried. And I just figured that I would figure it out while I was there. I had that ability, and I had the ability to actually figure it out. I mean, I was a weird kid. I used to build my own toys. Looking back, I was a very creative person. So I can figure things out, and I could be plopped into a business I knew nothing about as a consultant, being prepaid money, fix us. And I had the audacity to think I could make my way, deliver value, and figure things out. So I was never shy about taking on new challenges, new opportunities, as long as I felt like I was going to be compensated well for it, even though I might not know what the hell I was doing. Go figure. But that's actually a perfect salesperson, right? I mean, think of what I was doing.
It is. I mean, I'm so sorry. Like, I just want to say something. How were you perceived? Because I mean, before we start talking the sales part, as a consultant, how are you perceived? I mean, clearly you had clients. I mean, how many years did you do this? And how were you perceived by your clients that were clearly probably older than you? A lot of your peers in regards of, yes, the next generation, everyone knows first generation, this is good. Second generation, business is good. By third generation, company by and large dies. That's where a family-owned business dies, is by the third generation, unless there's like a whole entire vision that is built up within the generations, or unless you see the one child that has it in them that they want to bring the company to a new level. And also to make sure that there's not disarray. So we all know in New England, we have a history of companies that have separated. Mom and dad are no longer around and the kids are fighting. And then the company separates, still alive, but company separates in one way or another. So how were you perceived? How did you keep these companies going? And how long did you have the consulting? So I'm known for throwing out a lot of things because I talk, so that way I sit back and listen.
Yeah. Well, looking back, you have 2020 looking back. And so I definitely did not know this in the moment. So anybody who's challenged and thinks that you should know what's challenging you or what the cause is, let yourself off the hook a little bit, right? It's the wisdom of time and experience that helps us understand this. So looking back now 25 years ago or so, I know I was perceived as an arrogant guy. But that arrogance is attractive to people who want something they don't have. And when they believe you can deliver it, they're willing to put up with the arrogance. In fact, the arrogance makes them feel even more confident in your ability to deliver. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what happened. So did I build a lot of close, meaningful friendships back then? Hell no, right? I was not the kind of guy in the business world, right? Loving, goofy, fun dad and husband, but not so much in business. And it was a decision I made mentally that I could not be successful in business without showing up a certain way. It was a reality that I created for myself that I later had to undo. But I would say that's how people perceive me. And why did it work? Because they wanted something and I convinced them through my arrogance that I could deliver it. And I always felt like I could deliver value because I felt like I could always figure it out. And it didn't last that long because I also have a component in me that I need to be in new environments. I need to always be discovering, always be creating. and I can't live in the constraint of a project plan or a job description. So I have two things either working for me or working against me. I have to be in a job that has an open scope, always changing, always depending on my creativity. And I have to have a job that is never defined, that can always be redefined. So I can always find new ways to express myself. I'll let someone else figure out why that is, but that's kind of where I was. So I was always entering new environments until I finally, found the career that I'm pursuing now.
So how long did like you said, it didn't last long. So how long did the consulting last until, I mean, when did you start the company? So how long were you consultant? And then when did you create this company, and if there was anything in between?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you go to my LinkedIn, it'll show like a 6-year career, right? So 91 to 97. In the midst of that, I was consulting, but I was also the interim sales leader for a couple of companies, and I co-founded a couple of companies, tech companies. One was sold in 98, one went public in 97. So that consulting mindset, that free spirit kind of project work type mindset allowed me to join a couple companies in the tech space, learn the space, learn how to sell it, become an integral part of the business, and then, benefit from that learning. And then that became the launching pad for us to go back to Boston and actually enter the internet boom with a full head of steam and really do some amazing stuff.
That boom, I feel like we are living through all these different booms. So we went from tech 11 years ago when the world imploded last time. And I mean, you are a serial entrepreneur. You come from an entrepreneurial background. For anyone that's like watching, that's thinking, I want to start something right now, this is a perfect time to start something. But they remember all the people that came in and they lost, and they came in and they lost. What do you say to someone that is so excited? They're getting paid right now. They are at home. They're like, you know what? I'm living the dream. I'm getting paid by somebody else. I'm finally discovering exactly what I want to bring to this world, the product, the service, the business that I want to build. But I also know it feels like every 10 years, we're imploding, not just failing, but we're imploding globally. You're a serial entrepreneur. Like, what do you say to that person?
Oh, this is such a great question. So here's the thing. You've got to decide what you want to be good at. You got to decide really early what is the outcome of what is the outcome you want to achieve, and that's going to dictate the investment that you make and the expectations that you have for your career, for your life. Why am I starting there? Because I've been part of maybe 15 venture-backed startups, 20 million plus in revenue. I've co-founded my own companies. I've also been working with a venture capital firm and helped develop over 100 portfolio companies, right? So I have a lot of experience here with small businesses that want to get big. And the overriding factor, if you look at the research and look at what people are writing about this, the overriding factor is timing. If you want to build the next billion-dollar company, it doesn't matter how smart you are, how much money you have. You've got to be the right person with the right idea and the right company and the right team and the right business and the right customers all at the right time, right? We're all using iPhones, but do you guys remember back in the 90s when we had the Palm Pilot? I mean, the technology is there, but it can fall flat if it's not the right time.
Excel, all of them. Yeah, I think that's not to take away from your flow. You're saying these big, huge things, big companies. I love how you said right time, but what about that person that's in between? So we focus only on small businesses, not these corporate sized businesses. We're Jeff Bezos when he's no longer in the garage, but he has a place that's probably size of a decent apartment size in Boston. That's what he's moved into. So what about that individual I don't want to scale that large?
Right.
Is it the same message to that person?
It's the same damn message. You know, Bezos committed to a 25-year startup. I mean, he knew what he was doing because he heard all of the naysayers.
Yeah.
He had a vision that he could only stick to if he was committed to it.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have to, everybody out there has to know why the hell you're doing it. I pursued my path because I pursued money, recognition, you know, what I was after, all the bullshit, all the smoke that came from doing good work. I wasn't focused on what I wanted, what, you know, the true core values that I brought to the table and what I really wanted for my life. I was focused on short-term, ethereal gains. Yeah. And that's why it took me 15 years to kind of wake up. And that's what I've shared with my kids to hopefully give them the benefit of that time. What I would say to entrepreneurs is, do you love what you do? Mm-hmm. Do you wake up every day on purpose, in flow, right? And if you're not, don't beat yourself up. Yeah. Leave yourself open to discover that, because that's what's going to make you happy. And that's what's going to make every day of your life worth living, regardless of how successful other people think of you. Because those people who are judging you really don't understand what success means, what the definition of success is. Because if they did, they wouldn't judge you. They congratulate you.
Well, I think it's because they, in their minds, I mean, most people, when they're thinking success, they're thinking of the after the fact of the Jeff Bezos or the Bill Gates and the after, right. And they're not realizing all the things that came before. So, I mean, I get up at 4:25 every morning, and people are like, they're like, "Are you insane? What? Why don't you sleep?" Like, oh my, I'm like, you don't understand how much I enjoy that, because 4:25 is the sweet spot. My international clients are just getting to work. My American clients are still asleep. I have that quiet space of the world where I go for a run, I go for a walk, I'm in here, I'm reading, I'm writing. It's just such a sweet spot. And regular people that have the 9-to-5 jobs, they're like, that's the most insane thing in the world. But you're right. When you love what you do, it's not a big deal. I love what I do. You love what you do. We surround ourselves with people that love what they do, versus the people who are like, oh my God, I can't believe it's Monday already. Oh my God. And we don't have to do that, because when you love what you do, it's not even a thought in your mind to like do it all the time. I was like ... but you know.
Yeah. And you know, and we've heard, like any of us, we've all seen the memes, we've all read the quotes, you know, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Well, you know, my experience, I might love what I do, and I do get up early, and I get up enthusiastically, but I have bad days. I have good days. It's not all, you know, daisies and, and rainbows. Right. But the idea is you've got to do something with your time.
Yeah.
And it's the construct that, you know, time is something we can't create more of. We can't buy more of. So think about how you want to spend your time. And if you don't know what's going to give you that happiness, right, then that's where you should be investing, and not like struggle, but leave yourself open, explore, read, talk to people, ask questions, be curious. And don't be upset with where you are, but be open to find that thing that's really going to jazz you up. Because if you're open and you're looking for it, you will find it. Yeah. And then you can decide, okay, great. What could this mean for me in the rest of my life? The hardest thing for me to do was to admit that, no, man, you know, Jimmy, your brain doesn't work in the way that you need it to work to do what Jeff Bezos did. Even though I always thought I was as smart as any, you know, billionaire out there, I could do what they did. I had no clue what it took to get there. Yeah. Until I started understanding who I was, what made me happy, where I naturally focused. And that gave me a sense of, okay, man, here's who you are. Now let's think about what you're going to do, and stop judging yourself based on what you see happening around you. Yeah. It's the quality of the time. It's the quality of the work. It's the quality of the relationships that mean the most to me. Yeah. And from those, enormous, immeasurable benefit can be derived, benefit that you can't even imagine. You can't even write down in a business plan. That's the stuff that excites me. And that's the stuff that I try to bring to my clients today, the thinking that I try to bring to my clients today.
So let's talk about your clients. Let's talk about what you do. What do you provide for your clients? What is your company right now? And how did you get this company? Like, I mean, you've done all this stuff. Now you have the company. How many have been around, and what do you guys do for your clients? Who is the best client for you?
Lots of, I love how you just ask one or two simple questions. I'll answer them all. So I gravitated into technology space and I became this mercenary salesperson. And so I just traded jobs every 2 years and upped my salary, increased my comp plan. One, because I had the same mentality, Jodi, that I could not work with people. So as soon as they pissed me off or something went wrong, I moved, and I wanted to move before they got rid of me. So I would just trade up to higher paying jobs and richer experiences. And I thought that was it. I was top rep worldwide at a large technology company. It was December 31st, and I was reclosing a client, and I was burping up stomach acid. I was the least healthy I'd ever been in my life, and I was the richest I had ever been in my life, just by virtue of the things that I valued at that time. And I hung up the phone, and I got on the internet, and I hired a life coach. I mean, the next day I interviewed him and hired him. And within 6 months, I recognized that every CEO and sales leader I had ever worked with needed this perspective. And I kept that coach for 10 years. So the transition occurred for me in about the 2005 timeframe. And that led to me saying, look, I know now who I am. I have a voice. I have an experience. I have to share this. And so I founded the company in 2006, and that precipitated our move to Columbus. And so today, it's been a number of years. It's been a great journey. When I say that we specialize in delivering a 100% predictable growth curve for modern sales forces, I've got 30 years, right, of working with businesses, not counting my experience in my own family business. So I understand what drives growth. And I've been struggling with my clients to drive growth for the last 14, 15 years. I guarantee every interaction with my customers, I really am striving for a 100% success rate with all my clients. What we've done over the years or what we've done recently is gone back and studied 10,000 working sessions, and we identified the factors that made our clients the most successful. And we turned that insight, that data, into a predictable growth curve. We're calling it the new growth curve. It's an S curve that actually kicks off with growth and continues that growth rather than starting with losses with the hope of growth in the future. Our clients, when they were successful, got returns immediately and kept it rolling. So we identified the 12 milestones that allowed that curve to exist. And we are now delivering that predictable framework to startups. I work with lots of small businesses under 100 employees, as well as we're working with a $140 billion, global enterprise who has never had a sales-driven organization in its many years of being in business. So we're having lots of fun helping a lot of people achieve their dreams.
So one of the things that is very hard for most businesses of any size is understanding the sales process. You have found ways to educate individuals in regards of how to have a better seamless process. But at the end of the day, the biggest problem that most companies have, especially small businesses, are there's no university of sales. And we've talked about this 10 zillion times. There's no university of sales, which by and large there should be. The individuals that are phenomenal at sales are we'll call it the hustlers, I have no idea where I belong in this world. I just fell into this and I got a mentor and this is what they designed me to be. They mentored me. I was their apprentice. How does one find that person? I mean, maybe they're not ready for you yet, but they know and maybe they're like, I have to take on the task myself. But at the end of the day, I do marketing and I know how many pain points that I hear about, like, Jodi, I don't have time for this. I hate it. I've had bad experiences. It's too much money. Sales is right up there. I mean, we are always seen as the same. We're not the same. Sales and marketing is not the same. But boy, oh boy, the pain points that a business owner has when it comes to talking about sales and marketing, hand in hand, how does one find a salesperson? How does one learn how to do it themselves? I mean, there's just, such a hot button with everyone. Even when you're dealing with corporate level, they go through salespeople like crazy. You have to hit your numbers, et cetera. So let's just like spend a little time on. I have clearly a lot more questions for you, but this is like a big one where people are afraid of it. They want it. They need it. They don't know what to do with it. All of this in a huge bubble. Go.
Right. Well, here's the beautiful thing. So my mindset is organizational. So I like to build sales organizations. And so, the other way I introduce myself is that over 30 years, we've built an expertise in helping companies double or triple their revenues in 1 to 5 years. That's really our sweet spot. Now, I also spend a lot of time with startups, pre-revenue concept stage startups, and with solopreneurs, because I love working with entrepreneurial minded people. So my personal passion finds me oftentimes working with the people who follow you and would be listening to this conversation. And so what's wonderful is that I've been able to distill everything that I know to be true about a functional approach to sales by communicating, ideas that support a functional way of looking at leadership. If you want the essence of what it means to be an effective salesperson, and this goes for everyone listening right now who's running a small business and who has never thought of themselves and never wants to think of themselves as a salesperson, get rid of that. Why not think of yourself as a leader, as a functional leader? We teach people how to practice sales as a leadership competency. That's really what it is. It's not about manipulation. It's about it's not about becoming a power leader, right? It's about operating as a servant leader, right? A servant leader serves shared goals and leads people down a shared path to change. So if you're trying to sell somebody something, you've got to first identify a shared goal, something you can both work on together. And then you have to have the ability to walk them along a shared path to change. The shared path is not just your solution, but it's also the sales process or the buying process. Do you understand how people buy? And can you walk them proactively along that process? It's only 4 steps. If you can do that, you can be successful. And anyone can learn this in, a 10-minute conversation. So it doesn't have to be a big, ugly, complex thing. And it doesn't also have to make you feel gross. It can be a functional, positive experience.
I love how you said it doesn't have to make me feel gross, because we hear sales and we think car salesman.
Yeah.
Which is really, really harsh. As a woman, I go, it is one of those moments where you're like, ugh. Like I go, you've been mansplained, you've been sailed, like hard sales, and you're like, honestly, I want a car that works. I don't want it just for the color of the radio. So when we hear sales, our brains automatically go to the bad experiences that we've had. Right. And to hear what you're saying is something that most people don't talk about. Most people don't engage with. And you hear more of the bads versus the goods. And so you're dealing with a small business that, let's just say it's a woman-owned business. So, I mean, you're talking about how you have 2 daughters. And one of the things that I find very funny is you have 2 daughters. You're teaching them in regards of how to make sure that they have a humongous foothold in this world. And I know your girls, and they're powerhouses. I love them. They're powerhouses. But guess what? You're arrogant as well. So how does your arrogance, your past arrogance, and everything you've gone through, you're trying to teach them these things. You're trying to teach people in regards to sales. I feel that there's all these little the arrogance. I'm teaching my girls that this is what you're going to encounter and how do you find a place in this world. I'm teaching clients how to stand and like really understand sales, but not feel dirty about it. I feel like they're all interconnected. So how do you succeed with all these interconnections that you're talking? And I'm writing notes. I'm like, manipulation, annoyance, women, sales, people. I mean, like all these things are woven together in my mind, and it's probably woven into so many people's minds. How do you make us feel okay with what you do, and how do we walk away with a knowledge, your daughters included?
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful question. So the only way you can do it is by simplifying, right? And so the most impactful voices in my life are voices from like Dr. Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Buddhism. I mean, not that I'm an expert in any of their teachings, but think about how simple the message is. The message from the Dalai Lama, kindness. Imagine if we all were just kind, and imagine if none of us needed the ego boost of when we don't understand something, we criticize it, or we try to change your mind. So just imagine simplifying everything that we know to be true about how to build positive interactions with people. That simple view of the world works in leadership. It builds functional leaders, people who can build functional interaction, high performing teams and high performing companies. What's interesting is that in this society, society today doesn't allow us to think that that's possible. Make no doubt about it, Jodi, I'm a recovering asshole. Okay. I'm the kind of guy, I'm Alec Baldwin and Glengarry Glen Ross times 10. That's who I was in my professional life, because I believe that's what I had to be to get to where I want to go. People are gross, salespeople, mostly because they believe that's how they have to be successful. And most of them who continue to be that way, they're like that because it works for them. But I found that it wasn't sustainable. When you burn bridges and share your arrogance with people, the next sale always becomes harder. You end up running out of people to sell shit to. And that's how most startups work. Like it's going to be scorched earth. I'm going to take as many clients as I can, build as much of a growth curve as I can, and exit, and then go live on a beach for the rest of my life. That's short-term thinking, and it does nothing to deliver value or to multiply growth. Our approach, the approach that I'm taking now, is based on a very simple universal truth. It's this concept of, I want to create a shared experience, a shared win. I want to create shared growth. I want to help you achieve your goals. At the same time, I help myself achieve my goals and my company's goals. By virtue of doing that, I'm going to create a positive sum game. I'm going to multiply, right, the value of our relationship. It's not a zero sum game where I'm going to steal something from you or take something from you, or, create a transaction where I'm taking your money and I could give a shit what you get in return, right? That's how most salespeople view the world. I'm going to take, and who cares if you get what you want? I'm winning. I'm taking a pelt. It's like, think of all the battle euphemisms that are used in sales, the wartime euphemisms and the hunting euphemisms. That whole mentality is what makes you feel like sales doesn't align with your core values. Well, what if sales was about mutual gain? What if it was about multiplying growth? Would that be aligned with your core values? And could you exercise a system that would deliver that? Something that actually builds a community, not tears it down. Something that actually builds your family. Jodi, you brought up my daughters. Here's a great sales story for you. My daughter was 8 years old, and I'm trying to get her to wear her helmet while riding her bike. Can you imagine this happening?
And she doesn't want to. I can imagine it, because I was that kid. I get that.
All right. So what does a parent do? A parent could go buy the helmet, hand it to her, and say, wear this. Right now, she's looking at it. It's not the right color. It's ugly. And by the way, her friends, aren't wearing one. So what do? Well, you can manipulate. I'll give you, like in any business, I'll give you a discount if you buy it, or I'll give you candy if you buy it, or I'll take you shopping if you buy it. So manipulation might get her to put it on, but as soon as she turns the corner, it's in the woods.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And so parents have the same problem that salespeople do, that leaders do in business. How do you make this something we both want to achieve? So I had to help my daughter understand the problem from her perspective. Sales don't occur. A solution is never bought unless it's solving a problem. We have to agree on the problem before I can agree on the solution. Most of your listeners go out to the world pitching stuff without really spending enough time understanding the problems that their clients have and helping them focus there before they focus on what they want to sell.
It's one of the things that we have. It's one of the problems that we have often, and it's one of the things I hear often is that when I ask the most basic question, where who's your target audience, they're like, well, it's everyone. I'm like, wrong answer.
Yeah.
Wrong answer. So we hear it often, without a doubt.
That's the dream. Yeah. So my daughter, how do I convince her? So here's the thing. So I asked my daughter a simple question, right? I have to focus on her goal or a goal that's important to her. So sweetheart, how many times do you think you can fall off your bike before you can't dance anymore?
Well, all right. So wait, you started the story, but you didn't say that she was a dancer. So of course, most people.
Well, how many? So here's, I'm going, how many, I get it. I get choked up when I tell the story. How many times do you have to fall off your bike and hit your head on the curb before you can never dance again, before you end up in a wheelchair? So what you have to do with a business owner or anybody who's buying from you is help expand their sense of what their problem is. My daughter thought her problem was being mocked by her friends or being different from her friends. Her real problem is safety. And I can't just say safety to her. She doesn't get it. I have to put it in context that she understands.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So she's like, Dad, I get it. And so I didn't make her wear the helmet I bought. I said, what do you want to do? She's like, I want to be safe. What do you suggest? Let's go get a helmet. Well, we don't have one here. Let's go shopping. Where would you like to go? I don't know. Let me go shopping on the web. So she went and found the one she wanted to solve the problem that she now recognized.
Gotcha. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. So I'm going to switch conversations for a little bit, still staying on course. Now, before I say that, if you F-bomb on this podcast, I will be mad at you. I let you pass with 3 little cusses.
Thank you for letting me know.
No F-bombing whatsoever. I should have said that from the get-go. I'm like, if he F-bombs, I'm going to have to jump through the screen and kill him. So just letting you know, no F-bombing.
Thank you.
March 2020, and mind you, I have probably 3 or 4 questions to go. So I want to basically get all these questions in.
Okay.
March 2020, the buzz is happening. Schools are starting to shut down. Your daughter is in college. She comes home. What does that do for you, your family, your business, your clients?
Yeah. So I lost 75% of my clients and 75% of my pipeline in a day. So that was challenging. Now we're fine economically as a family. The business wasn't. So I didn't respond with high stress. I responded with heightened curiosity, hence the lighting, the camera, the professional microphone. I went virtual.
Yeah, for everyone that's watching Jim, I mean, I noticed that from the start where I go, hey, Jim, you look really, really good. the investment. And I'm like, you look pretty. You look so good. I just want to put that out there.
Most of my clients tell me, Jimmy, are you sure you want us to see you that clearly? Most folks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was super tough, but I've been working from home for, 20 years. I love being around my family. I know a lot of folks need separation. I was happy to have everybody here. And we actually enjoyed the fact that we're now seeing our daughter more than we would have because she was away at school. Yeah. The sisters are becoming more, they're developing a closer bond. Now, of course, there's stress because we're all dealing with COVID. We can't go out and all that stuff. And we were actually operating very conservatively because our, Carol is living with us also, Beth's mom. Mm-hmm. So we have a high risk family member who we have to protect. So we were super focused, super vigilant. And, but, we also looked at this as an opportunity to pivot, and we did.
How did you pivot? And also for the clients, I mean, you lost 75% of your clientele, but they were scared. I mean, they were scared as well. And I mean, I was in Mexico when I started getting cancellation we're not going to do marketing right now. And but throughout the year, people started like dipping in, dipping out, dipping in, dipping out, realizing I have worked too hard and I've come so far, and I'm not going to let myself fail. So how was it for you in regards of you pivoted, but when clients started slowly, like molasses slow coming back to you, how was it, and how were you able to reassure them that it's going to be okay? And also, what were you able to offer them?
Right. Well, we got hyper curious, and we're experts at helping people manage change. So the way that the best way to deal with change is to accept it. So we never fought the reality of what was happening to us. We accepted it, we got curious, and we moved. We had no complacency at all. It was just a new opportunity for us. And what's really interesting is that while we faced the reality of many clients closing down, right? Many of my clients were retail based or office centric. So they had to get rid of their salespeople as well. But many of our clients were manufacturers, and they had to survive no matter what, like their core, like car manufacturers and security integrators and so forth. So those folks were actually buying. So we just spent more time on the folks that want to take advantage of opportunity in this time. A lot of our clients saw the downturn as an opportunity to reinvest in skills and systems development so that they could come out 2021 healthy and ready to rock and roll. So there were 2 points of view in the world, and we were just very hyper focused on the point of view that we knew we could support.
Where do you see us going from here? Vaccinations are rolling out, things are opening, things are closing. A lot of people are getting rid of their brick and mortar, realizing their employees are working better and more efficient at home. A lot of people have no desire to go back into the way it was, or even conferences. So many things are in flux, all dependent on when a larger amount of people get vaccinated, if they choose to get vaccinated. You're dealing with a lot of people that are like, I have no desire to get vaccinated. So where do you see the industry of sales and these businesses going in the next year, 2021, as well as 2022? Because normalcy, like whatever the new normal is, 2022 is where we're going to feel like, maybe. But 2021, we're still in a not knowing what the hell's happening. So where do you see your industry going from there?
I think it's going to be, I think this idea of distance is going to be, to a degree, is going to stay with us. So this idea of virtual interaction is going to be very common, not just because we have to, because it's really convenient. We're so much more productive, working remotely without that travel. And a lot of organizations, now not everyone, but a lot of organizations have learned how to operate with distance in a virtual way. So I think a lot of it's going to stay, but there is nothing at all that replaces the human touch, right? The visit, I get to look into your eyes, I get to shake your hand, I get to enjoy just the energy of being around you, the time, that's going to come back as, quickly, where it can, I believe. So, will I be on a plane? I have clients that never stopped traveling during the pandemic, and they still travel, planes and everything. They're doing it wisely, but they're still doing it. I expect the first trip that I take on a plane will be a vacation. I cannot wait to be back in a restaurant, having breakfast with 3 other people at a 4-top table. That's going to be a treat. I, honest to God, I have no idea when that's going to happen again. That kind of interaction without the fear of being sick, it'd be great if we could make it happen by the end of the year, but I feel like it's going to take some time for that to truly come back.
When you're looking, I have 2 more questions. 2 more. When you're looking at just overall the way that businesses have handled the pandemic, you're hearing, you've seen, as a serial entrepreneur, you are seeing so many different ways of the bubble, we'll call the real estate real estate bust, and then now, so you have a great experience of how, whether it's the restaurant businesses, and I mean, and I don't know if your family still has the restaurants, but you're looking at all these different industries. What are your thoughts overall in how people have handled this? I mean, we are resilient as people, but you've seen the ugliness of how businesses have done. So, and you're smiling, so you're like, so you clearly have an answer here. But
Look at for anybody out, yeah, for anybody out there worried about, can you run a business? You can run a business. I mean, the truth is that there's a reason so few companies survive generations. There's a reason why, top level leaders are really only represented by 5% of all executives. It's hard to be an elite performer. But do you need to be an elite performer to love what you do, build a business, and have a great life? No. Is it fair for me to look at the world and say, man, we're fucked, we're messed up, right? We're
Dude,
a bunch.
What did I talk about? Did I not just tell you?
I didn't complete the word. I didn't complete the word. I mean, human beings are screwed up. We're messed up people. I mean, we fight wars. We do all kinds of horrible things, and we treat each other horribly. Should that define how we view the world? And should that define the potential that we see for our business and for our lives and for our friends and for our community, for our kids? No. I went into the pandemic optimistic. As the pandemic dragged down, I saw how human beings treat each other. I became very pessimistic, but I come out of this today very optimistic. We can all make our own way in the world. We can all we all have the potential to define the lives that we want to have. Most of us, many of us are in circumstances that we can't control and that have us bogged down. But the only way out is to change your view for what's possible. And if you can do that, you can build the business you want, live the life you want, and enjoy the time you have without respect to the craziness going on around you. I work with small businesses because, if I'm working with a business that's 10 million in revenue or 5 million in revenue, they can double, triple, or quadruple before the market even notices that they're a blip on the map. There's no competitive pressure for most businesses that are small to double or triple in size. It's really just about you, the business owner, and your team learning how to execute. That's the only resistance in most cases to driving significant growth. So my focus is on the human being, the individual. What do you think you can do, right? What are you willing to do? What are you willing to commit to do? And if you are, I can walk you down that predictable path. And I think that opportunity exists for everyone out there who just makes up their mind to make it happen.
So again, people are watching, they're listening, and they're like, well, he's definitely sales. I'm like, oh yeah, he's a sales guy all the way, but he's a sales guy with a different twist and not making you feel dirty. So I do really like that a lot. And I'm not saying that because I adore and love you. So there. Last question, my friend. If you had a personal ask and a professional ask, two answers here. A personal ask and a professional ask of anyone that's listening, anyone that's engaged, and anyone that's like thinking about how do I sit there and like create a sustainable sales pipeline or anything. Yeah. Ask anyone that's listening to you right now.
Yeah, if you want something.
Wait. Which one's personal? Which one's personal?
Professional. If you want your business, if you want to change any part of your business, the first thing you have to do is believe that you can change it. Do not become complacent and accept the status quo. Don't convince yourself that because it's hard, it's impossible. If you want to change any aspect of your business, find someone that you can call and have a conversation with. Call me. I won't charge you, but I'll help you see that. I'll help you figure out whether or not the change you want to make is possible. You've got to ask questions, not create limitations for yourself and for your business. If there's anything that I think that we bring to the table is this idea that most of the work that I do is changing the non-supportive mindset or belief systems of the business owners that we work with. So don't develop those non-supportive mindsets. And if you start down that path, call me. I'll kick you in the ass, and I'll make sure that you get your head on straight. On a personal level, I would say, look, back to my comments earlier. We can all be more kind, and yes, we can achieve any vision or any purpose or any goal that we have for ourselves, as long as it aligns us with the people around us, the people in our community, the people that we decide to serve, the people we want to call our customers. Nobody is an island. Everyone who is successful is standing on the shoulders of someone else's investment, someone else's struggle, someone else's learning experience. Accept that and recognize that your success is going to be directly related to how well you connect with others. And connecting with kindness, right? And this idea of mutual benefit and mutual gain can only help you. Do not believe that something as important as sales can only be done if it's gross or uncomfortable, or something that doesn't build value.
What great answers. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
God. Jimmy, thank you so very much. I mean, like, I know that you guys are busy. And I mean, look, very, very well put together, structured answers and helpful hints for everyone and anyone that's listening. I mean, you've come a long way in regards of where your business is, and I'm proud of you. I mean, I'm always proud of you guys anyway. I mean, and when we're vacationing, we're like just hanging out and talking about just random silly things. But I love the fact that you've learned a lot throughout your years, and you have so many more years to go. But I mean, I love that you've gained so much from where you were to where you are right now, and you're able to educate your clients. You're able to educate individuals that just aren't even your clients, but that they need help and they don't know where to go, and their egos are getting in their way. So I love that you're around. I love what you're doing, and I love that you took some time to talk to me.
My pleasure. It was a great treat to talk to you, see you again, and to share some thoughts with your audience. I appreciate it.
And again, this is like so randomly different from what we do, because like we're talking business, we're talking about who you are, your life, but it's kind of funny. But wait, last question. Does your family still have restaurants? You didn't answer that.
No. We moved them down here to Columbus. My brother has stayed in the restaurant business, was very successful. Has been struggling through COVID, so he's pivoting as well. So I think
and he's in Ohio, like he has a restaurant in Ohio.
Yeah.
Tell him if he wants to talk. I would love to talk to him too.
Okay. Okay, great.
Well, you know what the thing is, the restaurants have a whole different story, and I think that's one of the things that people need to hear, the stories of all the restaurants that are out there. So yeah, bring him. Yeah, let's just do two Ohio stories. That'd be wonderful.
Why not?
All right. Thank you, my friend. Love you.